Hello, hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face and my card making space. And an unboxing video of the Simon Says Stamp July 2025 card kit. I always have to remind myself because the card kit, the subscription, it's like a month ahead. So I always have to remind myself what month it is. This is the July kit. As always, disclaimer, I work with Simon Says Stamp. They send these kits to me. I don't have to do these unboxings or anything like that. They're just fun. I did not do the previous months because by the time the box arrived, that kit had sold out completely. So, as always, there are options. There is the subscription option, which you're not locked in. It's always explained with all the things. You can opt out. You can purchase it as just a one-off, like just buy the kit, move on with your life. And then a lot of the things are available separately. So, like always, I will have a link to the kit, etc. And then everything else I end up using to make whatever I decide to make. So, first off, I know one of the things in the kit, and it's a small version. I don't know yet because I don't have a lot of info. Yeah. So, just humor me because those that know me and watch my content, I am picky. So there's a little bottle of, it says Positively Perfect Craft Glue. It's just a little bottle. And I know a couple things because Simon's next release, so I'm not going to say anything else, had these bottles of this glue. And I was in contact with Susan at Simon Says Stamp because I was like, what is this? And what's going on with my craft tacky glue? Because I have been using the Simon Says Stamps craft tacky glue for years. I switched over to this. I honestly don't remember. I'd have to go through hundreds of videos. Many years ago anyway. And it is like literally, I buy this stuff. Like this is what I use. And that's what I put. I did a whole review in this in my precision glue press. It's this glue, the craft tacky glue. Love this glue. It is super thick. So it is not for everyone. It is really, really thick. And I was finding before I got the precision glue press, I was finding that by the end of the day, because I do this as a job, I'm gluing a lot, I was having like issues with these bottles. And that's also why I don't use the little mini bottles that are very popular with like the precision point on them and everything that are about this size. I couldn't, like my hands would ache like to the point where like I couldn't use my hands at the end of the day and it was worrisome. And then this came out, I bought it, I did a review on it, game changer. Love it. Love it, love it. Anyway, love this glue. It's just what I like to use. That said, new glue. I will post a link to it because you don't have to get it with just the kit because it is listed. I did a little digging before I sat down to film this. And it is a different formula. And as of right now, because I'm kind of speaking for myself and just the little bit of a combo I had, they're going to carry both. I don't have an opinion on this. I literally have not opened these bottles. I haven't even opened the kit yet. I just saw it was listed on the paper and I was like, oh. So different formula. All I will say is like the larger bottle that you can get separately, it's soft. It's a very, very soft plastic, which makes me happy. Like this, what the craft tacky comes in is much firmer. So especially once you've used up like half the bottle, you really have to press on it. You know what I mean? So that I know, and I noticed on this one too, it's soft and that makes me happy. So there's my randomness at the moment about glue, which seems a little crazy, but we're card makers. The adhesive's kind of a big deal. And I've tried a lot of glues over the years. There's a lot of good ones out there. There really are. Yeah, to each their own. People have favorites and that's great. I like that we have options. So yeah, you get a bottle of this new glue, the Positively Perfect Craft Glue. And it says it dries clear and matte. That makes me happy as well. And I will be testing this out over however long. And I'm not making any promises though, because for me to switch over that, I have a lot of glue. So anyway, there's my treatsy on glue for now. you know, AKA just random thoughts. I don't even have a first impression. So let's actually switch the camera down and unbox the kit so we can actually see what's in it. So this one does come with a mesh bag. That does not come in every single kit. It just kind of depends on what is going on and what's being included in the kits. But yeah, I'm a big fan of the mesh bags. I have tons of them. I have extras. I store my grip mats in them. I love them. And yeah, the whole kit contents will fit in here and then some. So you got a mesh bag. And then, make sure I got everything. Yep. Okay, set that over there. There is, oh, and you get a bottle of the glue. So these are little 1/2 ounce bottles. And I will say, it's got like a decent little, like small tip on it. Yeah. It is definitely thinner than the Craft Tacky glue. Like, this might take me a little while to get used to because I'm picky. I'm picky about things, especially my adhesives. And even like adhesives that everyone else just absolutely loves. I try them and I'm like, yeah, no. But I will be giving this stuff a try. And we'll just see. We will just see. So, you get a bottle of that. Candy, as always. Tropical fruit punch. Love. So you get that. And then the kind of the main focus here. Ooh, there's an acetate sheet. Don't want to lose that. Okay. So, this is the Through the Window stamp set. This is fun. So you've got the window frame. And then you've got all these different scenes. Like that. I like that. There is, and I don't think, is it included in this? No, it's a separate purchase. Okay, there is a coordinating die set for this stamp set, like one that will cut out, you know, all the things. That is separate. It's not part of this kit because you get other dies in this kit. But I will post a link to that in the description box below. So there is a separate die set. The die set you do get though is this is the Window Trio die set. Like they're 3 like good size. These aren't small. These are fun. These are fun. So where I can see where the cut lines are. So these would all like open. Doop doop. So then you could have the die cut window and then like have the scenes stamped behind them. That's fun. That's fun. And I like that you get different shapes. That's really fun. Okay, so you get the Window Trio die set. And then there is there's a stencil set. This is the landscape stencil. Because you can't really see it on here. This is how I store like pretty much all my stencils. I just cut the top off the packaging. I've shown this in other videos. And then that way I can keep it like in here. Okay, so it's a 6x6 stencil and it is, I am making a mess. There you go. To create scenes. And these are all, so actually let me grab, this'll work. This'll work. So you can either cut like through ones like this, but I usually you can just go like this. And then you can do your stenciling, create clouds. And then when there's we've got like a wavy line, you know, a sort of a jaggedy line, and then another slightly less wavy line. So you can create like landscapes, things like that. And then you've got like little clouds, little birds, a little sun or a moon. That's fun. So there's that. So you got stencil, stamp set, the wafer dies. There is, again, a sheet of acetate, obviously, so you could do like shakers, things like that. And then some little star bits. These are stellar embellishments. So just cute little stars. Again, nice for little shaker bits, or stuff like this, specifically stars. I like doing like little dots of glue and then like adhering them, you know. You can't go wrong with stars. Stars are always the best. So there's those. And then all the pattern paper has like gone everywhere. Okay, this pattern paper is La La Land Crafts in the City. Oh, these are pretty. They're all double-sided. Oh, those are really pretty. You know, and the funny thing is, okay, first let me just like flip through these. Ooh, I like that one. I like these. These are just, yeah. If I was an actual scrapbooker, these would be so nice for like trip photos, you know, like to scrapbook with or to like cut apart and then do on like scrapbook layouts. But again, I don't scrapbook, but these are really fun. However, okay, I get why, like normally I would not look at papers like this for card making. Like I'd be like, how did, but with the windows, so you can like cut papers and, oh, I like that. I like that idea a lot. So, you know, you could have these, like, that's fun. That is a lot of fun. So you could have like, oh, I like. So that's a lot of fun. Okay. These are fun. These are the type of papers that I seriously would want to hoard them. This one's very like mixed media looking. This is really fun. Huh. Interesting. Okay. So you get the pattern papers. And then there is Peacock Cardstock, Simon's Peacock Cardstock, Banana, and Ivory. All really good, heavyweight. I love Simon's Cardstock. Same thing, been using it for years and years. You get a Scorched Timber Distress Ink Cube. And then you get some little foam strips, which are nice for shakers, especially when you've got like narrow little areas, etc. If you want to make these into like little shakers or just build up like dimension. So I think that's the whole kit in a nutshell. Yes. At the moment, I have no idea what I'm going to make. No idea whatsoever. But through the magic of video editing, I will be able to splice that all together. So just keep watching and I'm going to show you guys what I ended up making. That's right. I made 3 shaker cards. And these are actually pretty easy to make. So I used the Window Trio die set that comes in the kit, and I die cut the Ivory cardstock, also in the kit, from that. And then with this first one, I was just kind of playing around. I took my little Simon embellishment wand, and I used the stylus end to reinforce the score lines where the like window shutters are, basically. This works for any sort of die set that has like an interactive element or just parts that need to fold, because while the die will press in a bit of a score line, no matter what, it's never enough, especially when you're working with like heavyweight cardstock. So I've shown that in other videos. I'll use something like my SCOR-BUDDY, any sort of scoring board, and I'll just reinforce that. And something like this little stylus on the end of the embellishment wand works really well, because a lot of times a bone folder is too wide for like narrower little areas. So if you want the shutters to like actively sort of open up a bit, I recommend sort of reinforcing it with just a narrow little stylus. So I ended up die cutting all 3 frames from that Ivory cardstock, and then I took the Scorched Timber Distress Ink and a blending brush, and you can see I'm applying it in like going back and forth. I'm not doing like a circular or a swirling motion. I'm purposely going just in straight lines, kind of back and forth on all of these, so it creates a bit of texture, almost sort of wood grain-ish, and intentionally uneven. Sometimes I would go straight in, like press the brush into the ink pad, and then directly onto the cardstock die cut, so I'd get the darker areas. Other times I was tapping the brush off on my work surface to get like softer areas, just so I've got that variation, and it just creates a bit of extra. So I worked my way through and did all 3 of these frames with that scorched timber distress ink. And then after I did that, originally I was just going to like use the frames and the backer. I wasn't going to do shakers, but making shakers won out. So I chose my pattern paper from the kit. This was hard because there's a lot of good ones. There's a lot of good ones. There's so many options. I could have made dozens of these little windows, really, with just between the pattern papers available. For shakers, basically, I was able to get 3 with just the kit. But if you want to do more like actual shakers, you would need more acetate, get some more shakety bits. If you're anything like me, I have multiple lifetimes of bling, so I could make shaker cards all day, every day, probably for years, and still have supplies left over. But anyway, I chose my pattern papers, and then the first 2 were easy. I just eyeballed it, as you could see, because it was just straight lines, and I cut the paper just slightly smaller. With this one with the rounded top to it, I just traced it around the die cut with a pencil, and then cut inside the pencil lines with my scissors, so that I've got all of my scenes ready to go. And then to make them into shakers, we need to add the acetate. So there's the piece that comes with the kit. And I've shown in past videos, a lot of times I'll trace like the die cut or the die itself. And then I realized I had all of the leftovers from die cutting that ivory cardstock. So I used that. And I actually put these pieces of cardstock I'm using to trace, I put those back in the packaging. Because I was like, ooh, then they're just ready to go for next time. So those leftover pieces I used as my guide, and then traced inside those with just a fine point Sharpie onto the acetate. And then when I cut it out, I cut out inside those lines so that the acetate will be just slightly smaller than the die cut frame. And another thing I've mentioned in many videos, when it comes to adhering acetate to cardstock, I prefer what I call a dry adhesive, like red line tape or score tape, things like that. However, some of the areas on these frames is pretty narrow, even for like 1/8 inch like red line tape. Also, I wanted to test out this glue. So I did liquid glue. I've talked about it. I don't like working with liquid glue with acetate because it oozes everywhere, all the things. However, it worked. I put a very, very thin line of that glue around the perimeter. I did it with all 3 pieces, and then I pressed the acetate into it, and then I stuck one of my big acrylic blocks, all of that linked in the supplies, but one of my big acrylic blocks on top just to hold everything down until the glue dried, and it was fine. It was fine. I might make more shakers more often now, because things like, especially like that curved top there, I won't do things like that with. That's another reason why I'll avoid doing shakers, because it's like you got to get finicky and you got to fiddle with the red line tape, etc., etc. But it was like, this worked. Even with the foam tape, little foam tape strips, I cut one in half. So so to make it narrow enough to fit that top area, I was going to leave that off and not make that part of the shaker, but I would need to put foam behind it anyway. So I was like, I wonder. And yeah, using my little Simon scissors, I was able to cut that strip of foam tape in half. And then when you remove the backer from foam tape, it's flexible. So you saw me curve it along the top there. And then I put the foam strips along the edges, making sure there's no gaps. You remove all the backing before adding whatever shaker bits you choose to use. I'm going to use the stars that come in the kit. But you want to remove the backing first, because if you put the shaker bits in and then try to remove the backing, everything's going to move around, and like the shaker bits are going to get stuck to your foam tape, and you're just going to have a bad time. So I removed that, and then I put some of the stars in there, and then I pressed my pattern paper to the back of it, and I've got my shaker window. Super simple, and it's just pretty. And it's subtle. This is what I call a subtle shaker, because, usually when I make shakers, I fill these things, spoonfuls of bling or micro beads or whatever, go big or go home. But the kit, you only get that little bit of those star bits. So that forced me to limit myself a bit. And it's like, oh, who'd have thunk? You can do that and still make cute cards. And I actually like it. I like that it's a bit more subtle. Normally I probably would have dumped that entire bag into one, but I was like, I think I can stretch it between the 3, and I did. And I still had a few left over that I used to embellish the cards at the end. So I kept repeating the process. That first one with the rounded edge was the most difficult, because I, cut the foam tape in half. These other ones are just straight lines, super easy. So I just took the little foam strips, just went around. You make sure there's no gaps, remove the backing, put in the little stars, and then press that pattern paper into place. And we've got these little shaker windows, and oh, they're so pretty. So I pulled out the modern Postage die set from Simon Says Stamp. That's not part of the kit. I've had this for a while. In fact, I lost it for a long time and I couldn't find it. And then I finally found it, like, stuck in between a bunch of stencils. Anyway, I use that to die cut the cardstocks in the kit. That's going to frame our windows. And then I'm also trimming down more pattern papers because I thought not just the for behind the windows, I wanted pattern paper like on the cards as well, because they just, even though you're only going to see like a bit of it, it's still super pretty. So I trimmed down the pattern papers to about 5¼ by 4 inches. So just slightly smaller than an A2 card base. And I did that with 3 separate papers because I'm going to make 3 separate cards. And then I also cut, when I first cut it, I cut it at 4¼ inches. And then I cut the bottom part off. That bottom part, that like kind of wider strip, I'm going to use on the inside of the cards. So there's kind of a method to my madness. And then for the sentiments, I'm using sentiments from the Through the Window set. And I'm using the kind of leftover Ivory cardstock plus the die cut. And I'm using my anti-static powder tool. And I am inking up and stamping the sentiments with clear embossing ink onto this Ivory cardstock. So those first 2, doesn't really matter how I stamp them because those I'm going to just fussy cut. There is coordinating wafer dies like I showed in the unboxing. Like there's a separate coordinating wafer die set. I don't have that, so I just, once I'm done heating embossing those sentiments, I just fussy cut those out. The one on this die cut piece, stamped it, put on the gold embossing powder, going to melt that with my heat tool. That one I'm not fussy cutting, it's just going to stay as is. And then yeah, heat these with my heat tool till they're all shiny and melted. So I've got these nice little gold sentiments. And then I fussy cut those sentiments off camera. I don't like doing that sort of fussy cutting on camera because I have to hold my arms in a really weird way and it's annoying. It's annoying. So got those cut out. And then I also pulled out some twine from my stash just to give this a little extra something because this is the one that's going to get the smallest little shaker window. So I wrapped some twine around this cardstock and then, as always, reverse tweezers for the win. So I start my knot, use my reverse tweezers to hold that in place so I can make my bow. Let's make a bunny ear, wrap it around, pull it through, and then I can adjust this while the reverse tweezers hold everything in place. And then once I'm happy with it, I can pull the bow tight, remove the reverse tweezers, pull it tight again, do a little more zhuzhing, and then trim off the tails. And then I've got my little panel with the gold heat embossed sentiment and the little twine bow, just as a little extra something. And then my card bases, I pulled out another couple sheets of Simon's Ivory cardstock to make my card bases. So these are all top folding A2 note cards, so 4¼ by 5½ inches. And I'm stamping the sentiments from that Through the Window set with the Scorched Timber Distress ink. So you can use a stamp positioner for things like this. More often than not, I'm just freehanding it, you know? This is what we used to do back in the day, back in the olden times of card making, before stamp positioners were a thing. So in between filming the first part and this part, there's actually a few days. I've had a lot going on, dealing with headaches, different things. Anyway, I legit forgot about that glue. And I just immediately went right back to my craft tacky. So I could have used the other glue for this, but habits. Like I said, when I was going on my little glue treatsy, habits, especially with glue. So it didn't even occur to me until I started editing and I was like, I could have used the new glue for this. It would have been fine. Like my barest first impression of the new stuff is it's decent. I like it, but I obviously need to use it more. So yeah, I'm gonna, like, I have it sitting on my desk now to hopefully try and run because it's habit, you know, to grab my glue press and use my craft tacky glue. So I adhered the layers together. I'm only going to show this one because the other two are the exact same. So I adhered the pattern paper, the modern Postage stamp die cut, then the window, and then the sentiment, which I also added a little bit of foam tape if it was hanging off the edge. And then once I have the sentiment adhered, I took a couple of the remaining little stars because, like I said, there was just a few left. So I used those as like a final little embellishment. So arrange those and I just picked those up with my embellishment wand. and adhered them into place with little dabs of glue. And once those were adhered, the cards were complete. So yeah, like I said, subtle shakers, like they're not, you know, you got the little bit of shaker noise, not a ton, but you know, you got the pretty stars and the pretty pattern paper and the gold heat embossed sentiment, and these were fun. So like I mentioned in the beginning, I will have links to all of the things in the description box below the video. You just click on the thing that has the ellipses, like the 3 little dots, and it says more. If you click on that, the description box expands, and I've got the links to everything I use, the card kit, the subscription, and then all the other random supplies I use to make my cards. So that will be all below for anyone who is interested. And as always, thank you all so very much for hanging out with me, for thumbs upping and commenting. It really helps a lot. I very much appreciate it. I read all the comments. I respond to as many as I can. And subscribe if you haven't. I'd love that. I'd love to have you. And I will see you all very soon in the next video. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much to my amazing Patreon supporters. For anyone that might be interested in joining my Patreon community and supporting me, the link to my Patreon is in the description box below the video. For everyone else, as always, thank you all so much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you. And here's a couple other videos for you to check out in case you missed them. Bye!